You bring a guy in, you tell him all year long, you're my guy, you're my guy, you're my guy, you're my guy, until he's not your guy anymore. He's not going to take any bullets for you. He's not going to sugarcoat anything. He's going to answer questions, and he's going to tell the truth. And it's not like Teddy Bridgewater, in his 7 years in the NFL, has established a reputation for being a guy who talks a lot and says a lot of things that are fanciful, exaggerated, or embellished. I think that's the most I'd ever heard Teddy Bridgewater talk in one continuous setting, frankly. He's a guy who's very guarded, he's private, he's quiet, and for him to come out and say that, I have no doubt that he's telling the truth. And, this is just part of the adjustment when you bring a coach to the NFL who has very, very limited NFL experience. Matt Rhule was the assistant offensive line coach with the Giants back in 2012, I believe. So it's part of the adjustment. It's part of the growing pains. There's only so much time you have on the practice field, and you've got to budget it. Just like if you're at the buffet line, you only got one plate. Well, you can come back, but there's only so much food you can fit on that plate, Myles. And you got to decide what it's going to be. What's your priority? And that's what Matt Rhule decided last year, and I have no reason to doubt Teddy Bridgewater.
Boy, Mike, you got to go to more buffets if you think you can only have one plate, man. Like, you got to.
I'm saying one at a time.
I mean, maybe, but like if you're at the breakfast buffet.
Do you do double plates? Do you do double plates?
Look, if it's breakfast buffet, I'm definitely putting a waffle on one plate, I'm getting pancakes on another, and I'm making sure that I've got a sufficient amount of bacon on both. So I don't know what buffets you're going to, but you got to go to some better ones, man.
I don't go to buffets because I can't. Once I start, I can't stop.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that's the only reason.
I'm aware of that limitation. Well, before the pandemic and the whole.
I'm too fancy for buffets. No, that's how that came off, Mike. That's what
no. And I always, the buffet was always I'm very neurotic if you haven't noticed. It was always a source of stress for me because back when I didn't have much money, I felt like I had to eat enough to get my money's worth, but I didn't want to eat so much that they had to roll me out of there in a wheelbarrow. So I just was always like, have I eaten enough to justify the $4.99? But have I eaten so much that, I'm going to gain 5 pounds from this experience? So I never was really a big fan.
Well, that's fine. Look,
you've just learned more about me than you ever wanted to know.
Perhaps that's true. But with Teddy Bridgewater, look, I think that you're right. He's not necessarily a guy that usually comes out and says all that much, especially things that are that particularly critical. But I think over the course of the season, where you had Teddy Bridgewater, not be able to get the team over the hump late in games, that is one of the reasons why I think Matt Rhule and the organization really kind of soured on Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, you had David Tepper, the owner of the team, basically come out and say, look, we have to be better at the end of games. And when the owner of the team is saying that publicly, and it's pretty, pointed criticism at the QB, then you kind of know that your term there is going to be over. So, I mean, it's not that there's any love lost, I guess, between the two sides, but yeah, I don't see why Teddy Bridgewater would feel like he has to defend the practice schedule for a team that he's no longer on, especially when that team kind of blamed Teddy Bridgewater for some of those late game failures.
And I got an issue with that. Look, they knew what they were getting in Teddy Bridgewater. He wasn't fundamentally different last year with the Panthers. And when you consider the fact that he didn't have Christian McCaffrey for most of the year, David Tepper is obsessed with getting a franchise quarterback. So they got smitten with the idea that Bridgewater could continue what we saw from him in 2019 when he was 5-0 as a starter with the Saints, work with Joe Brady, and reach a next level. And it didn't happen. So they write it off and they move on to the next guy. And if it doesn't work with Sam Darnold, that's why the cautionary tale for Darnold is they're in love with you now. They'll fall out of love with you quickly. And they'll move on from you, and they'll pivot to someone else because Tepper wants a Patrick Mahomes, he wants a Tom Brady, he wants an Aaron Rodgers, and he's going to keep swinging the bat no matter what it costs him until he gets the guy that he wants. And this year it's Darnold, and next year it may be someone else. And if it ends up that Darnold's the guy, great. Problem solved. We got a quarterback for 10 years, and we're going to go contend and compete every year. That's exactly what Tepper's doing. And Bridgewater learned it the hard way. Darnold may learn it the hard way. And they'll keep learning that lesson until they find the guy that they want. All right, let's.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.